Okay, so we have gotten a pretty decent grasp of geometries by now, or geometry nodes by now, which is great because that's a huge part of creating these geometries in Blender. However, we haven't really touched on animating much, so let's do it right now. Basic idea of animating is actually really trivially simple. All you need to know is your shortcut on your keyboard I, the letter I, top right of the keyboard, and then all you need to do is just move the cube somewhere, press I, move along the timeline, move it somewhere else, maybe scale it up, maybe rotate it like so, and press I again. Pressing I creates something called keyframes, which you can think of as just important frames. And now if I press space, as you can see, the cube is moving. Trivial, simple as it could be. The important bit comes in the fact that this keyframe is applied right here. So let me just clear it by right clicking and this, or Shift Alt I if you have hands big enough to actually reach that shortcut. And the basic idea is simple. We have the location of our cube controlled on these sliders. We have the rotation of our cube controlled on these sliders. We have the scale of our cube controlled on these sliders. And when I press I on them, you can see I'm keyframing each and every single one of them separately. Yellow means something is keyframed. Yellow means that we are on a keyframe more specifically. Green means we're not on a keyframe, but it still has the values. And then orangish red means that it has the values that the keyframe doesn't, which means that if I press space, they all just get reset, because once again, Blender is trying to animate it. Simple as it could be. The reason why it's so convenient to think of it this way, where you press I on sliders, is because this also applies to geometry nodes. So, for example, let me pick my arrow, and right here, I do have a slider that controls the size of the arrow, which means I can just, first of all, let me remove the keyframes that already have been there. I can set it to something like 2, and I can have it grow, like so, and then there we go. That's precisely why animating with geometry nodes was so important, because this allows you to really conveniently create these animations with keyframes later in the future. But there is obviously more, because for example, let's say that we have our beloved cube, and let's say that we'd like to create an animation of that cube falling. So at around 100, or maybe 250, why not? We'd like it to be on the ground, and beforehand we'd like it to be above. And then we want it to fall. This is unrealistic. That's because this keyframe is following something called a Bezier curve, and that just doesn't do for falling. Falling doesn't really follow Bezier principles, which is why, if I extend our timeline, if I select all those keyframes, those diamonds right here, those are the keyframes, right click, then we have interpolation mode, where we can select interpolation. For example, linear. The difference may be slight, but what linear basically does is now the movement is constant. Whereas with Bezier, it would slowly speed up, reach maximum speed, and then slow down. With linear, it is constant. It is constantly going at the same speed. I can change the interpolation to something different. For example, sinusoidal, which is a tad more looks like exponential, which means it starts really slow, but then it keeps on accelerating forever and doesn't really stop. It just keeps accelerating. That on its own wouldn't be too terrible for falling objects, could be for something massive maybe, but very conveniently we also have the dynamic effects, which include bounce. And bounce, as you might guess, is precisely just falling. There we go. I can even make this slightly smaller to make the effect more visible. I do apologize, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I can't really catch a break with the foundation work, but it's fine. So we have this kind of bounce. Another kind of effect that's very useful is, for example, the back, which is especially useful when it comes to things appearing. Actually, both of the next two effects are really useful when it comes to things appearing, because all you need to do is just scale, is just location, then maybe move it like so, set the scale to 0, keyframe, and then we can set it to back, which will create a really nice appearing effect, which works much better when it's quick. There we go. Or if you want to go crazy, something I really like doing really often because it allows me to use my rolling sound effects, is having some kind of more complicated object like this, scale to 0, mess up the rotation, and then set it to bounce. or elastic, sorry, elastic, which is the most aggressive of the few. There we go. That's what it looks like. And that gives you basic kind of control over keyframes. Now we can go more in depth, obviously. We can go right here, for example, and in these geometry nodes, I have this, which controls if certain things should be enabled or disabled, like for example this addition. So what I can do is I can just set the addition to appear as well, and then that will work. There we are. I can select this node and I can change the interpolation mode to bounce, because why not, which will cause this kind of scene. It's all pretty simple stuff. However, there is more, and that's because sometimes, which does happen actually quite often, you need a more in-depth kind of control over animations. And these kinds of keyframing approaches work for almost everything. The important word here being almost. Sometimes it has to be more specific, and in that scenario you open up the graph editor. And what the graph editor does is it just allows you better control over your keyframes. For example, let's get to our arrow. Right here you can see this is how quickly our arrow is rising, this graph. And since we've set the control to Bezier, we can actually change it up. So we could have something like this, let's say. You can see that the height of the arrow corresponds to the height of the graph. I think this is pretty simple. At least it should be pretty simple, because that's all it is. Which means that if I do this, the arrow should go up and then back down. We just get that. It's exactly what happens. The arrow starts low, it goes up and up and up, then it reaches its peak, and then it goes back down. If we go to more complicated kind of keyframes, because this is just Bezier, this is simple, lovely Bezier. We can also move it like this, by the way, I should mention. If we go to more complicated kinds of keyframes, like for example our elastic, then one thing you may not like about this elastic is that it's very violent, right? As you can see, the amplitude is really, really large on it. And thankfully, when it comes to those keyframes, you can just select them and you can just change up this amplitude. So let me just say this one. You can see increase, decrease on the scale, like so. We need to find the other keyframes to, there we go. You can't really see it because I need to zoom in once again, but this is just changing the amplitude, which once again is difficult to be seen because it jumps down. But yeah, that's the basic idea. That allows you to control the keyframes. In the background, I am rendering an animation for one of my videos, and over there, I am not utilizing these keyframes quite as much, but what you can see is that most of these nodes have green text on them, which means at one point or another, I have animated them. At one point or another, they have had an animation which did something to them. And it's just really convenient. And it doesn't have to be a complicated animation. It doesn't have to be something very elaborate. Right here, for example, right now, all I'm doing is I'm setting up a joke in the video. And in order for that joke to work, I need to keep trying to approximate a sign using a Taylor series. So all I'm doing is slowly enabling higher and higher order approximations, like so. And then we'll move the camera, that's no problem. There we go. And render. Simple as it could be.